Alright, so what I want to look at is chapter or section 4.4, which is what we've been looking at. But something I want to focus on is this right here. So I think I don't have my book with me, but I know it's on page. I know it's in chapter section 4.4. So this box right here. So these are the important steps that we're going to follow when we're solving linear equations with one variable. So I want to make sure that all you guys have these steps down. So basically, it's saying that step one, you want to simplify each side of the equation as much as possible. So you always want to combine your like terms in these equations, and you want to use your distributive property. So we're going to look at each one of these steps in our example. Step two, you want to use the addition property of the equality to get all your like terms together. So basically, you want your x's on one side of the equation, or whatever the letter is, and you want your numbers on the other side of the equation. So we'll look at that too. Step three, we're going to use the multiplication property of equality to get the variable by itself. And step four, like always, our last step is to check. So let's see what all this really means. Let's look at a problem right here. Alright, so the problem we'll be looking at will be 5 times x plus 2 minus 1 equals 11 minus 1. So I want to focus on what's step 1 always. Step 1. So let's go back up. And we see step 1 is to use the commutative, associative, and distributive properties. Basically, what we're going to be doing is using our distributive property and combining all our like terms. So let's see, what do I mean here? So our distributive property tells us that we're going to multiply this 5 times everything that's in the parentheses. So we have 5 times x. Well, that's going to give us 5x. Then we have the 5 times the 2. So that's going to give us 10. Notice we didn't do anything with this minus 1, so I'm just going to copy it on down. And over here I didn't touch any of this yet, so I'm just going to copy that down. Alright, so I have 11 minus 1 on the right hand side. And remember, I'll keep my invisible wall going down here. So our first step is we use the distributive property. Okay, so if we continue, now part of our first step also is we want to combine our like. I think the word we used in class was similar, right? Similar terms. So what are similar terms? So these two guys are similar, right? Because they don't have x's, they're just numbers. So I know I could combine those two. And on my right hand side, these two guys are similar because they don't have x's. So those are similar terms. So those are the guys that we could actually combine together. Alright, so let me clean things up to give myself some space here. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and let's work with combining those similar terms. So I got 10 minus 1. That's going to leave me with 9. And it's positive, right? And so I'll just bring down that 5x because I did not work with it. And on my right hand side over here, we have 11 minus 1. That just leaves me with, that's going to equal 10. Alright, so let's continue here. Now I go to our step numero 2. Step 2. So right now we got our 1, 2 step. So let me move up and let's cheat here. What's our step 2? Our step 2 is use the addition property to get all the variable terms on one side. Okay, so I want everything that has an x on one side and everything that doesn't have an x on the other side. So I'm going to rewrite this. So right now I have 5x plus 9 equals 10. So notice, let's do my invisible wall. I have a number on my right hand side. I have a number right here. So I want all my numbers to be on the right side of my wall. So I look over here, which guy is my number? Well, that guy is my number. And I'm not saying this this guy right here, because it has an X, I'm going to keep it on the left hand side. So it doesn't matter which side X is on, but because it has a letter, I have to decide what side do I want my letters on, the left side or the right side. And it doesn't matter, you'll get the same answer. But in this case, because I have a number over here, I'm going to move this 9 with that 10. And so I'll show you what I mean right now. Alright. So what I'm going to do is I need to move that 9 over because I want to get X by itself. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. So these 9's will cancel, and that's why we did that. So we'll be left with 5x equals 1. Alright, so now we did the addition to move, or the subtraction, because we moved everything to one side. Now let's go up again, and then let's see what our step 3 is. So we use the multiplication property. So let's go ahead, let's move down, and let's use that multiplication property. So let's, step 3. Step 3, we're going to use the multiplication property. So how do we solve this right here? 5 times x equals 1. So the way we're going to solve this is we're going to do the opposite, just like we've always been doing. So let me rewrite this to make this nicer. So we have 5 times x equals 1. So what's the opposite of multiplying by 5? Bam! Dividing by 5. So what happens to those 5's? Bam, bam, thank you ma'am, they cancel. So we're left with x equals 1 divided by 5. And yes, now x is by itself. So since x is by itself, now we have finished. Because we have finished, now we could applaud. Alright, thank you. I know that was a great problem. But what's our last step? Check. So don't forget to check your answer. So what do we do or check? We plug that in back to the original. So let's see. Our answer is 1/5. So let me scroll down here so we could check our answer. Alright, so our original was 5x plus 2 minus 1 equals 11 minus 1. So for my x, I know my answer was 1 over 5. So I'm going to plug that in. Instead of writing x, now I'm going to write 1 over 5 plus 2 minus 1 equals, and I could go ahead and solve 11 minus 1. I know that's 10. Alright, so let's go ahead and do our work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a distributive property. So this isn't going to be as hard as it looks. So I'm going to do 5 times this and 5 times that. So if I multiply 5 times this first guy, I might want to put 5 over 1, right? So 5 times the 1 gives me 5, and then this 1 times the 5 will give me 5. So I get 5 over 5. And then I'm going to multiply the 5 times the 2. So I'm going to have plus 10. I didn't touch this, so I'm going to bring it down, and that's going to equal 10. So here, what's 5 divided by 5? Well, hopefully we know it's 1, so you're going to get 1 plus 10 minus 1 equals 10. So let's go ahead and do this. 1 plus 10 is 11. 11 minus 1 is 10. So we got 10 equals 10. Is that true? Well, I hope so. So, bam, good. It works out. So now we are finished. So there's our example using all those steps. And there's my phone, so I guess I got to answer it. So I'll see you guys in the next video.